Brent here, back with you today for a much requested video on our D405ANC. In this video, we're going to cover everything from pre-installation, assembly, operation, and maintenance. In this video, we're going to cover everything to ensure that you'll be successful in starting up your machine. Let's get into it. Okay. The first step in successfully starting up any machine is ensuring you do your pre-installation requirements. On this particular machine, the first thing you want to do is get the machine cabinet removed from the pallet and put into place. You've got your leveling feet down here. You want to get those underneath the machine in the four corners. And then we want to start removing all the parts and laying everything out so that nothing goes missing. One thing to note is that there's a lot of hardware that's taped to particular parts or boxes. Make sure that nothing goes missing. Moving on from there, we're going to talk about power and dust collection. So power is really, really important. I've talked about it many times. You really need to make sure that you've got your power coming in plus and minus 5%. So on this machine, it's 230 volt, 3-phase. So you've got your line voltage, L1, L2, L3, and ground. You want to make sure that your electrician measures it so that the power is sitting somewhere between 219 and 241. Right here, there's a sticker that sort of lays it all out and gives you all the specs so that it's very clear. If it's single phase, same thing goes for that. Moving on from the power side, we've got our dust collection port here. It's really important that we always check to find out how much CFM we need for dust collection. This is a 5-inch port, so pretty simple. You just got the single 5-inch port. And once you get that connected, we're good to go. Before we get started on the assembly of the machine, I need to touch on a really important safety topic. It is absolutely critical that we have no power running to the machine through the assembly process. It's not good enough just to lock out the machine. You want to go back to the power source on your wall, on your disconnect, and lock it out there. The reason for this is when you're assembling your machine, you'll be fastening your table in an area where there is power running through it. We want to ensure that everybody is safe while installing this machine. Now that we've covered the pre-installation and safety side, we get to move in to the assembly of your machine. First thing we need to do is take a pallet jack or a forklift. We need to bring the forks in underneath the machine and start to get this thing elevated. One thing to note on the back side of the machine where your forks are going to lift up, make sure that you're not so far advanced that you can't adjust the leveling bolts. What you're going to require are 4 leveling pads. Where they're going to be located is in the front of the machine on this side, on the left and the right, and in the back corners of the cabinet. The wrenches that you're going to require are going to be 2 wrenches, both either 24 millimeter or 15/16. Both will get the job done, whatever you have at your shop. And then you're also going to require a torpedo level. So you're going to get this right onto the base of your table, and you're going to level it on your X and your Y axes of your machine. Once you get everything leveled out, then we'll move on to installing the table. Now that we've completed the leveling of the machine, we're going to move on to installing the sliding table. When you receive your machine, you'll have a large crate, and in this crate, you're going to have your main deck for your sliding table, your base, your carriage, your end cap, and a bumper. First thing you're going to do is you're going to slide your base out of the deck. And what that'll do, it'll actually expose these shipping blocks. And these shipping blocks, you're gonna have 4 of them. You're gonna take them and you're gonna put them aside somewhere safe if you end up transporting the machine again. So first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take your machine base, we're gonna put it onto our machine, and we're gonna bolt it down with 5 fasteners. You're gonna need a 19mm socket, and we're gonna get that tightened down. We'll show you how that works. And then we're gonna install the carriage. We're gonna slide the deck on. We're gonna install the bumper and bolt up your end cap. From there, we're gonna slide the deck back and forth to center the carriage. At that point, you're good to go. Before we get started in installing the sliding table, we wanna go through with a rag and make sure all the areas that have metal surfaces are cleaned off. You've got all the rails on the deck and the base. We've got the wheels on the carriage. We've got all the bases on the machine. We wanna make sure everything's clean and clear so it does not attract any dust. So we've done that ahead of time. We're gonna get this base mounted up. So you wanna grab the base, find somebody in the shop to help you out. And we wanna get these blocks flushed up against the positioning screws. So once we have that flushed up, we're gonna take our 5 fasteners and our 19mm socket wrench, and we're gonna get everything secured down. You've got access points on the back side. You're gonna have to remove the covers. And once you get access, you can get everything secured and bolted down. Now that we got the base fastened down, we're gonna move on to the carriage. You wanna grab the carriage and make sure the wheels sit nicely on the rails. The orientation of this is really critical. You've got your locking mechanism on the right-hand side facing the saw, and you're gonna slide it. You're gonna slide your carriage all the way until it hits the end stop. At this point, we're gonna grab the deck, and we're gonna get it slid onto the base. You wanna grab somebody in the shop that'll assist you with this. You wanna take your time at the beginning, make sure everything's lined up. And you're gonna continue to slide the deck all the way to the end until you hit the stop again. The next step is you've got another stop that goes underneath the deck. It's critical that we get this mounted right away before we do anything further. So we're gonna mount that stop. We're gonna mount the end cap. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna slide the deck all the way to the end on this direction and all the way to the end on that direction. What that'll do is center the carriage and you'll be good to go. Installing the end block. First, you want to insert the plate into the extrusion. You could take a small Allen key to get it into position. Then we're going to take your block with an 8mm Allen. And we're going to start to fasten it down. Now that we got the end stop installed, it's safe to move the carriage back and forth to its end positions until the carriage is centered. Once we get that centered, we want to bolt on our end plate. First thing we want to do is remove this handle. So you're going to remove the handle. There's a couple washers here. Then you're going to slide on your end plate. You've got 3 small fasteners. We're going to get those nice and tight. And once you get the 3 fasteners nice and tight, you can put your handle back on and you're good to go. Okay, moving to the back side of the machine, we're going to start installing the large support table. One thing to keep in mind, there's going to be a package of hardware when you're removing this table from the cardboard box. It's going to be taped to the inside. Please make sure that you remove that and put that somewhere safe. So we want to pull all the hardware out. We have a combination of set screws, locking nuts, and fasteners to secure the table down. So at this point, we're going to take some set screws and we want to just thread on our locking nut. And from on the inside, we're going to thread it into the table. We've got our third one already set, ready to go. From here, we're going to install our support arm. We're going to take the 2 fasteners out. And we'll get these locked down. Again, you just need a metric 5mm wrench to get these tightened down. From here, we're going to grab our fasteners. We've got 3. And we're going to flip this table upside down. The nice thing about pre-installing the support leg, it makes it a lot easier to get everything bolted up. You can also see that I put some wood down on the table to protect it. Please make sure you protect your new surfaces. There's nothing worse than getting a new machine and getting it all marked up. So from here, what we're going to do is take our rip fence, and we're actually going to use this as our straight edge. So we could put this down on our level table, and we can start advancing the set screws to get this table leveled out. We're also going to take the support leg and we're going to ensure that that gets leveled along with it and then get everything tightened down and fastened down. A couple important things to keep in mind when leveling the rear table is that you want to check the gap on the right-hand side and the left-hand side as well. The other important thing is you want to push the support table all the way to the left-hand side to create a small gap between your rip fence rail and the support table. Now that we've completed mounting and leveling the rear table, we're going to work on the smaller side table. You're going to take the same fasteners. We're going to get this thing bolted up. This one only requires 2. Again, you're going to take your M8 Allen, get everything secure. The side table, because of the size of it, it doesn't have a support arm, so we're just going to use the set screws in there with your M5 and your locking nut with your 17mm and get everything leveled out and secure. Now that we have our tables installed, next up, we're going to install our rip fence rail. First thing we want to do is back off these bolts and their locking nuts. These are going to be used to get the rail level. Then we want to remove our nuts and the hardware. We're going to remove the washers and we're going to remove the back bracket. At this point, we're going to grab somebody in the shop. We're going to lift the rip fence rail up and we're going to feed these studs into the casted table. From here, we want to get our washers and our nuts, and we're going to fasten this, and we're going to get it all tightened down on the inside. Now that we got the RIP fence rail installed and leveled, we need to make the electrical connection. What we've got here is just a standard quick connect. We've got to get the base here mounted onto the cabinet. You've got 4 Phillips screws, and you're just going to take it and start to get it mounted on here. Once you get it mounted, then you can make your connection and you're good to go. We're now on the final step of installing our RIP fence. We've got our RIP fence casting here that is going to be mounted to our rail. We have a pin to locate it and 2 fasteners to bolt everything down. We've also got 2 set screws here to ensure that we get everything squared and leveled out. So we're going to take these 2 fasteners, we're going to drop them into the casting. You're going to take an M10 Allen wrench. We're going to move this over and drop it onto the pin. And at this point, we can start to snug up the bolts. And you've got your 2 set screws here that you're going to go through and square out your RIP fence. Your aluminum fence, your 2-position aluminum fence, is then going to slide in on these T-slots, and you can actually loosen it by placing the handle on the outside, and then when you slide your fence on, you're going to tighten it down into position. Also, once you've completed bolting everything down, you've got some end caps here so that dust and debris does not pile up in there. So we want to put those end caps on, and you're good to go. So we just finished up installing the RIP fence. Now we're going to get started on the last of the large pieces. This is going to be our arm that goes over and is attached to our blade guard and our controls. First thing we're going to do is take our lower arm here. We've got 3 studs that it's going to get mounted up on, and we've got a leveling bolt. So I'm going to slide this on there. Then what we're going to want to do is thread on our big washers and nuts. Just going to want to snug those up so that we can still get this thing leveled out. And as mentioned, you're going to take a 19mm wrench, and we've got our leveling bolt here and our spirit level, and you can just adjust that until you get it level. And then you've got your locking nut. You want to take that and secure it. It's really important that we get this level because that affects how the blade guard and everything on this end ends up sitting relative to the saw base. From there, we're going to install the next section of our overhead arm, and you've got 4 bolts here to attach them. Get them all lined up. And you're going to require a 6mm Allen wrench. So we'll get all these bolted up, and then we'll jump into the next section. We've got our lower arm installed and leveled. Now we're going to start working on our 2 upper arms. The first one is for the blade guard. So I'm going to grab this arm. It's going to slide directly in here. We've actually got a bolt that'll actually lock this arm down into the correct position. And then we've also got, for our dust collection, we've got a port here that we need to get bolted on. So we've got slides in here, and we've got 2 fasteners that come in. You're going to need a metric 4 Allen key, and we're going to get these mounted up. So you're going to get those secured. You've got 17mm wrench to lock down your arm. The other thing to note on this part is that your blade guard is hinged and can swing away. We've also got a dust collection port here that I've already mounted on ahead of time. So keep in mind you'll need to mount that. And we're going to move on and mount up our blade guard now. So mounting up your blade guard, if you don't have anybody around the shop to assist you, you just want to take some dunnage that you have, some end cuts, and get this thing elevated so that you can take your hardware. You've got 3 bolts to mount this. We're going to get one started here. So I'm going to mount up the other 2. The other thing to keep in mind is you've got a little cylinder here, and you're going to have to get that mounted up as well. This is just a little air cylinder that will take the weight off the blade guard when you want to push it up and get it out of the way. The other thing you're going to mount up here is your dust collection. So it comes with a hose pipe or a hose clamp, and you want to get that connected, and that completes that. All right, we're down to the last piece of our overhead control system. We're going to take our overhead beam. It's secured by 4 bolts here. You're going to grab an M6 Allen wrench, and you're going to grab somebody in the shop to give you a hand. You're going to pick up the beam. We want to get this end fastened up. Again, I typically like to go diagonal to get it supported right away. Once you got 2 fasteners in there, it's not going anywhere. So once we get all 4 of these tightened down, next step is to get the control mounted up. And we've got the control cable that essentially will get secured along the beam and back down towards the ground. We've got these plastic clips that will get mounted up. So we'll get into that next. We've got our overhead support all assembled. Now we just need to mount up the control. We've got 4 fasteners that are going to hold the control onto the arm here. You're going to need a M4 Allen wrench. So I like to lift it from the bottom, and we're going to get the first fastener on the top started just to take the weight off of it. We'll get one going here. So we'll finish getting those mounted, and then next you can see here, we're going to start running our cable across the beam. We've got these plastic clips that run all the way back and down towards the cabinet. So we're going to run through that next. As mentioned, we've got 7 of these plastic clips to be able to secure your control cable. It's going to run along the top, down here, and back down to the cabinet. We're going to get this one all mounted up. One thing to keep in mind when you are securing the cable is to ensure you've got enough slack, especially at hinge points. Right here, our control swings all the way around, and we don't want to create any tight areas on the cable. You're going to take the larger conduit, you're going to stick it in there, clip it in there, and we're good to go. We're going to go down, finish the rest of these. We've got 3 more to go, and then we're going to move to the front of the machine and get the Outrigger table all mounted up. We've completed the assembly of our overhead support for our controls and our blade guard. Now we're moving on to the outrigger table and the crosscut fence. So the first thing we want to do is take our outrigger table and we want to slide it in to the end of the deck here. It can be a little tricky to get it started. And once we get it on there, we want to just slide it over. And we have our outrigger support here. We want to locate the pin and drop it in. And we'll flush it up and lock it down. So right here is your locking handle. And next we're going to go through the crosscut fence and all the associated hardware to go along with that. We're now going to start the assembly of the crosscut fence. There's a lot of hardware involved in this, so I'm going to go through every piece and explain its position and purpose. So first thing you want to do is get your crosscut fence unwrapped, and you want to extend it out so that you can remove this stop here. And we're just going to put it there until we're going to get to the point to reinstall it. Then we want to go through, and we've got 4 different pieces we're going to insert into the T-slot. So this is going to be our first piece. This is going to be the pin locator. And as we slide these along, we want to try to line them up the best we can. And then once we sort of get everything into position, we'll lock things down. This is one of our stop blocks, one of 2. We're going to slide that in. And we're going to line it up to our dead stop on the bolt. We've got another pin locator. We're going to slide that in. That's going to come and line up with our aluminum bar here. And we've got our last stop that slides in. This one actually has a locking mechanism on it, so we want to make sure that we get that into the right position. We're going to slide that in right here. At this point, we can put our stop back in. We've got our locking knob for our inner rail. So the big thing is we want to get that lined up with the hole in the extrusion. So we're going to put our stop back in. And then we're going to just make sure we get everything lined up by threading our handle into the hole. And once we get it threaded in there and we know it's in the right position, we can now lock the stop down. And all this does is locks this into position, so it's not going to go anywhere. So once we've completed that, we're going to flip the whole crosscut fence over. And we want to get the pins located to the correct position. We've got our alignment bolts, so this is going to be our dead stop with our blocks. We want to get all that lined up. And then we've got our locking handles that, again, we're going to come in underneath with the pins. Washer first. We're going to put that onto the stud, and we're going to get this one tightened down. Now, our last piece here, you've got a little T-slot so that this can pivot on an angle. So we want to get the T-slotted nut in there first. Get that into position so that it's on the stud. There we go. Then the washer. And then our handle. So we've got everything now assembled. We're going to tighten everything down. We're going to tighten down our 2 pin locations, our 2 stop blocks, And then the only thing left is to slide on our flip stops. And this machine comes with 2. And once you get those into position, you got your forward position and your back position, and then you want to just lock it down. The last piece of the puzzle, we're going to install our panel support. We're going to grab our T-nut and our handle. We're going to thread it through this hole. We want to just get the threads started, maybe 1 or 2 threads. Then we want to take our panel support and we want to make sure it gets lined up the long direction of the nut. You're going to slide it into position and lock it down. And that wraps up the installation of the outrigger table, the crosscut fence, and the panel support. Now that we've completed the assembly of the saw, we're going to go through all the accessories that come with your machine. First up, we've got an oversized blade guard. When you put your saw blade on an angle, that will cover up to 45 degrees. We've got our push stick. We've got 2 separate types of hold downs. We've got a quick release style and a wedge style. We've got our push handle for our table. And we've got a toolbox that's full of tools and accessories to be able to adjust your machine, swap out the saw blade. One of the tools in here that's really important is the arbor pin. You're going to insert that to be able to stop the rotation of the arbor when doing a saw blade change. Another great thing about this toolbox is you want to be able to put your shipping blocks in here to keep them safe so you don't lose them. If you ever want to transport your machine, then you're going to need these to be able to disassemble the sliding table. So that covers the accessories. From here, we're going to show you how to change the saw blade, and we're going to walk you through all the controls and operation on the machine. In order to install the main saw blade, we need to get the deck moved out of the way. In order to do that, we're going to slide it and we're going to put our fingers underneath this cover until it hits a push button. What that does is it allows it to move the sliding table out of the way so we can get access to our riving knife, our main saw blade, and our scoring blade. So first thing we need to do is get the arbor locked up. In order to do that, you're going to grab your pin. This pin has an orange knob on the top. The reason for that is to make sure you sort of identify that the pin is locked into the arbor and we don't forget removing it. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to grab our flange and our nut. We're going to make sure everything's really clean. Make sure any shipping oil or grease is removed from all the parts, as well as the saw arbor, inner flange. So once we get all that cleaned up, we're going to grab our saw blade. We're going to confirm the direction of our saw blade. There's actually a sticker on the saw guard here that'll ensure that you're installing it into the correct direction. It also shows you the scoring blade direction. So we're going to install that onto the arbor. Keep in mind that this nut is reverse thread. So when you're installing it, you want to install it with the flange and the nut together so that you ensure that it's centered. So I'm going to thread this on. Then what we're going to do is we're going to take our 36mm wrench and we're going to get this tightened down. Next, we can move over and get our riving knife. We want to make sure that it's loose, and we're going to insert our riving knife. And we want to get it as close to the profile of your blade as possible. Then you're going to grab another supplied 19mm wrench and then snug it down. At this point, we want to remove our pin. Again, this is critical. If you start up your main saw blade on with the pin, you could create some damage there, so don't forget to remove that. From here, we're going to move over to the scoring blade. The scoring blade's already installed when you receive your machine, but you're going to take these wrenches here. This one sneaks in behind of the arbor and locks in, and you're going to grab this wrench to tighten or loosen it. From here, we're going to walk around to the other side of the machine. I'm going to show you where the adjustments are for your scoring blade. We've got your forward and back and your up and down. The adjustments for your scoring blade are on the right-hand side of the machine. You're going to have your up and down adjustment and your forward and back adjustment. In order to release them, you have a locking nut in the back here that you want to back off. You want to make your adjustments and then lock everything down. We've now got power to the machine, and I'm going to walk you through all the controls. We've got our upper controls, our lower controls, and our E-stop on the back side. On our lower controls, we've got our start-stop for our main saw blade, our start-stop for our scoring blade, and an E-stop. And moving up to our upper controls, starting with the digital rip fence, we've got our digital readout. We've got our selection between inch and metric, and we have our calibration button. If I want to go from 6 inches to say 12 inches, I'm just going to key in 12.0. I'm going to press cycle start. It's going to advance to its position. While the fence is moving, if I wanted to stop it for whatever reason, you've got your stop button here. Below the cycle start, you've got your two-way selector. If I'm running the blade at an angle, I can run a thinner profile rip fence, and it actually will calculate your offset automatically. If I want to move the rip fence manually, I can unlock it and move it, and then relock it once it's in the desired position. When positioning your rip fence below 7.5 inches, you're going to have to press and hold on to the cycle start in order to complete its position. Moving to the blade controls, we have our angle adjustment. If you want to make any micro adjustments, you can just bump this button here. And then we've got our up. And we've got our down. And similar to our lower controls, we've got our main saw blade on, main saw blade off, scoring blade on, scoring blade off, and our E-stop. I hope you found this video helpful on our D405ANC. If we can support you in any way, please reach out to our service team by phone or by email. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.